Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Spooky AF. My name is Suz, and I'm joined here by my co-host Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hey, everyone. How are you?
Grand, yeah. We were saying this before we started recording, but it's been a fucking minute since we've recorded, or actually, my husband and I haven't seen you and your wife since the beginning of December.
Is it seriously that long?
Yeah, we watched your dog one weekend at the very beginning of December.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
God, that time has just become a fickle thing recently
Oh
for me.
yeah, time is a complete son of a bitch.
Yeah, I saw something actually online the other day, and it was basically like, January was 4 years, but now February has been about 3 seconds, and there's something inherently wrong with that.
Also, we even get an extra day in February, it's a leap year, and It still feels like it's we're basically in summer now.
Pretty much, that's it. The daffodils are coming out now. That's it. That's, we're good to go now. There's as our Irish people start to say, there's going to be a grand stretch in the evening soon.
Oh, I love it when the time changes and you message me with that. There's a grand stretch in the evening. I was it's that time of year. Every single year.
Yeah, for 6 years nearly now?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and then the same thing in the autumn when you send me every September 1st, you send out the Wake Me Up When September Ends music video.
Look, I have to be consistent in certain things.
You do.
Yeah. Oh, I have an update for you, actually.
Okay.
You will be glad to know I have finally watched Midnight Mass.
Yes, what did you think?
It was very, very good. I really enjoyed it. However...
Yep.
I'm still firmly in the side of I preferred Hill House and
100%.
Yeah.
No,
great show,
I agree.
Really fun, but I preferred his other stuff with Hill House.
Well, for me, Midnight Mass was just a completely different way of storytelling and dialogue and all that. It was just completely different.
Yeah, completely different. And so I understand why people view it as a 10 out of 10 show, but it wasn't a 10 out of 10 for me, unfortunately. But it was very, very good. I'm glad I watched it.
Well, on that update, I have a very similar update that I had mentioned in a text earlier this week that freaked you out because I did preface it being I have a huge update, and then I just left you hanging.
Yeah, you did.
you were like, what? Okay. But no, it's just I got my husband to watch Haunting of Bly Manor.
That is quite the that's quite the challenge, because I know for a fact he does not do horror. So
he does not, but he really enjoyed it.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Because now you can start him down the road of all things horror.
Oh, I don't know. He liked Bly Manor. Because the thing is, he liked Hill House. He was like, I'll never watch it again. But and it freaked him out. But he thought it was a good story and it had good graphics and all that jazz. But then he watched Bly Manor and he was like, no, this is actually really, really good and thoughtful and all that, and of course, he looks over at me in the last episode because he was watching. He's like, "Oh wow, that was a really well done ending. I really like the story." And he looked over at me,
weeping.
and I am openly weeping for and I knew I've seen it before. I knew it was coming, and
doesn't matter.
It's just ruined me.
Straight up ugly crying. Yeah, same as myself. Yeah.
When she's spoiler alert, she's in the lake and she's like, "It's me, it's you, it's us," and I was like, "It's us." I was tears rolled down my face.
Yep. That gets me every time. And the fucking picture that he has up in the restaurant as well. No. Sorry. Just it's ugly crying central for me.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Well, no, congratulations on that. That's good to know. My wife absolutely will not watch Hill House or Bly Manor. I will say she was actually okay. She caught the end of Midnight Mass because she doesn't do horror stuff at all. But she caught the end of Midnight Mass, so she actually watched basically the last 2 episodes of me.
Okay.
And she was fine with it.
Well, to be fair, Midnight Mass was probably the least horror-y of the series.
Oh, it's basically not a
Yeah, there's there's no jump scares. There's very little even horror imagery.
It's very accessible horror.
Yes, it's very accessible horror. Oh god.
But so now I will have an update soon then where I announce that I have watched The Fall of House of Usher as well. So
my god, I cannot wait because we have to talk about it, because I even got over Christmas we even got my mother-in-law to watch it.
Excellent.
As well, and it
that's
was
good.
we were all really into it.
Okay, well that's good to know. Well, that means that on the podcast you'll probably hear an update from me sometime in April saying, "Oh, I listened to it. I watched it finally." So, it's coming imminently for me to watch. So I'm looking forward to it.
So I want to jump into mine because I've got a bit of meat to it, but I did want to briefly touch on before we jump in. And so Skippers Unite, you can roll past this, but like we need to talk about how we've come full circle in our friendship, Rob, and that we are now both weekly listening to a Magnus Archives based podcast again.
We are. We really are. And it brings me such joy that we are.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is flawless. Loving it.
Oh, like loving it to the point where like there have been like there was like we talked about, there was an episode where I was sitting at work eating breakfast in the office, and I was just like, I have to stop eating. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
And that so rarely happens.
It did me dirty as well. I was not expecting it. I was driving home from work listening to it, and I got to a point where I was like, wait, no, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, oh, no. Like, that's not okay.
It's not okay. I was sitting alone because when I go to the office, I get there very early, and so I was just sitting alone in like our office's kitchen, just like being horrified, being unable to eat my eggs.
Yeah. Oh God, eggs as well. Not
great.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no,
I'm so
great.
glad. It's so good.
It's been an absolute delight.
It's so good.
Yeah, so happy to have like a weekly show that I can listen to again.
Yeah, it's kind of the only. I kind of went off podcasts a bit at Christmas because I like oversaturated my life with various podcasts. Because
you're a podcaster now as well, so you can't listen to the competition.
Oh God, yeah, that must be it.
Yeah.
The problem is with this podcast that we are currently recording is that I forget that we're not just having a conversation, that it's going to be heard by other people.
And I frequently find that in the edit when I'm editing it afterwards. I'm like, I can hear the point where both of us forget that we're supposed to be recording.
Yes, 100%. So like we record this and I'm like, great, that was a really fun time I just had with Rob, and then like occasionally it'll hit, like you'll message me and you'll be like, oh, we have a listener in Barbados, and I'm like, wait, what? Like,
yeah, exactly.
My brain short circuits.
Yeah. Oh yeah, actually, update on listeners. We actually have a listener now in Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh my God, fantastic.
Yeah, which is great. So delighted to hear that.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's wild. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning in to our essentially just like informal random conversations we're having with each other.
Pure ramblings, and often for me it's just talking absolute shite. So
oh yeah.
I'm glad that it resonates with someone somewhere.
Somebody somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of, I'm gonna launch into it. So I don't know, because you handle the logistics side of things. I don't know when this will air, but as of when we are recording, we are only 4 days out from having just passed Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So I thought I would do something a bit definitely not romantic. That is not the vibe we're getting with this. However, it is of a licentious sexual nature, what I'm going over today.
Wow.
So
Very
I guess
raunchy.
that is oh, I know. So that is my content warning for the day, is like, if you are uncomfortable with discussions of activities of a sexual nature, there's nothing explicit, but like it is talking about sex, then maybe give this one a pass, because today
Irish
I'm
mothers
going
everywhere have just blushed at the thought.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about the myth and legend of succubi.
Oh my God, amazing.
So I want to start this off. So I started out with a content warning, and then I want to add a few different caveats to this. So the first thing is, we'll go over what a succubus is in a moment. I am aware of the counterpart myth of the creature called the incubus, which is like the male version of like the man-bodied version of a succubus. Okay, I am aware of it. I know about it. I have read about it. However, I am not really going to touch on it, because throughout history, the myth of the incubus as this like man-bodied demon who attacks women in their sleep, it was used often as a cover-up for unwanted pregnancy and sexual assault.
Yeah.
So researching it makes me both sad and blind with rage.
Yeah, we're not going to touch on that.
No, because we're not that kind of podcast.
No, we're not. And yeah, we say this more frequently than we need to know, but we are not that type of podcast.
No, we are not that type of podcast. So they come up a little bit when I'm talking about like the origins of the myth, but we're not going to get into like any particular like documented apparent cases of them or anything, because again, it was just depressing.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, so I'm going to start out with my sources, and I'm going to take you guys on a bit of a journey. So my sources are a couple of really well-sourced Wikipedia pages, Villains Wiki, which was a really fun site, an NIH National Library of Medicine article about the appearance of the succubus myth in cases of mental health psychopathology.
Wow, okay.
I know. occultworld.com, and then a really great book by Mary Y. Ayers, which is called Masculine Shame, From Succubus to the Eternal Feminine. I know what you're thinking, like I was basically doing my PhD again. I had such a fun time doing this.
Yeah, I can hear from the sources.
Yeah,
I was like serious homework.
I have, because I wanted to do it in a. Well, we'll get to. There's a way I wanted to do it, like rather than just dive into like just cursory do some things. So, all right, I'm going to give you an overview for those who don't know of what a succubus, or the plural succubi, is. So, at its base, a succubus is a demon or supernatural entity who takes the shape of a woman and seeks to steal or absorb the vitality of men, often through sexual activity. So that's kind of the base definition of what one, and I'm sure like you're familiar with that, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I'm familiar with them.
So like usually she is depicted as a beautiful seductress. However, the older myths, which we'll get into, like also describe her as like having monstrous features, like a young woman, like with like claws or like a serpentine tail, kind of like a satyr almost look to her. So I want to now give a bit of a caveat of how we should think about this as we go forward. So succubi are controversial. So for the first instance, we need to remember that like a lot of the cases or stories, the aspect of consent in them is dubious. So, like, there are cases that I read about where men were like, oh, yeah, I, like, consented to having sexual activity with this demon woman, but, like, afterwards I was really, like, I was not into it because I realized she was a demon. And then other times, like, the men would often say, like, I was, like, sexually assaulted by this demon. So, as we talk about this, we are not condoning or like celebrating or promoting like anybody not having consent over their bodies in any kind of sexual activity.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. So like that's just I just want to say it.
Yep, absolutely.
So
we're focusing on the succubi that were a succubi on the streets and a demon in the sheets.
Yes, 100%. So yes, there is an aspect that like succubi are like that are like taking advantage of men against their will, and that is not cool. However, there are aspects of the myth that are really interesting and I do want to get to, and there are some like buck wild stories of like documented cases and how they were dealt with that are going to be really fun to get into. So
I'm sure there's plenty of dudes as well who are like, fuck yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, see, like cases ranged from like enthusiastic consent and bragging to
I had every last one of them.
Well, yes, 100. I'm gonna get into it. So I'm just acknowledging that aspect is problematic, and we should keep that in mind as we talk about things, especially as we talk about, because I'm gonna get into kind of succubi myths and legends and representations in modern culture as well.
Cool.
So we'll keep that up. So, however, one of the things that we're really also going to be talking about is focusing on, or kind of is in the origin of the succubi myth, because there's really interesting and problematic narratives that kind of are very much tied with like the patriarchy wanting to contain and like have control over women's bodies and their sexuality and their sexual power.
Okay.
So and so we're going to get into where that came from. And the succubus actually has a foothold in quite a lot of world cultures, which we'll get into. And then we're going to get into how it's in some ways been kind of reclaimed in pop culture by women.
Cool.
So I just want to say I am just scratching the surface.
So whistle-stop tour of the succubi.
Oh yeah, 100%. So a lot of what we think of as the succubus in today's culture comes from medieval Christianity. However, there are lots of other instances in world religions, particularly in Judaism. So the term succubus first appears in the late 14th century and derives from the Latin word succuba, meaning to lie beneath. Which is interesting when you think about the power dynamics inherent in a succubus attack.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and which we'll also get into as we talk about Christian mythology. So the Christian mythology names the first succubus as, who do they name the first succubus as, Rob? Take a guess.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Mary Magdalene or something.
Oh God, no. It's Lilith, Adam's first wife.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Because she's also been linked to the origin of the vampire myth of eating babies, all kinds of shits, and she was, if for you, those of you who don't know the apocryphal story of Adam's first wife Lilith, whistle stop tour again, she was made not of Adam like Eve was, she was made of Adam was made of mud and dirt, and she was made of other elements or something. And basically she didn't want to, one of the things that it kind of comes down to is she wanted to have sex in a dominant position, so she wanted to be on top.
She wanted him to be the bottom, basically.
Yeah, and Adam was like, nah, man, this is not what I'm about. And God was like, yeah, this is not what I'm about either. And she was like, fine.
Nah, bro, that's not me.
It's not for me, man.
Yeah.
So I found a source discussing that actually the story is that Lilith left Adam and the Garden of Eden, and she mated with an archangel named Samael. I think that's how you pronounce it, Samael,
cool.
Something like that. In the Bible, she's referred to as a screech owl in the book of Isaiah. And in Zaristic Kabbalah, which is a Jewish mystical treatise, there were 4 succubi who mated with this archangel and became the 4 original queen of demons. So there was these 4 women, including Lilith. So this is where it gets fun.
That's metal as fuck. That's...
Well, okay, get out of my brain. So I was obviously this is supposed to be a warning story for women to behave and obey men and all this stuff, and men being able to scorn women with sexual agency, but how fucking rock and roll it is to be nah, I'm gonna go bang an archangel and then become a queen of demons.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the preferable approach to this. Also, that archangel, he must have some serious stuff going on.
Oh yeah. He's packing something.
Oh yeah.
But I just remember thinking and then I get to be queen of demons, sign me up. This sounds great.
Sure. Yeah. No, this is definitely the better one.
Oh yeah, and what's hilarious is it's gonna keep getting more and more rock and roll as we go on.
Excellent.
So
it's good to hear.
So we've talked about it before when we went over the Witches of Belvoir, but in the tome that is the Malleus Maleficarum, which is the witch's hammer, which was from 1486, I believe, and was kind of the book on how to deal with women who were accused of witchcraft in the early modern period. And then this is where it gets a bit graphic. So according to the witch's hammer, succubi collect semen from the men they seduce, which were then used by incubi to impregnate human females to create cambions, or demon-begotten children.
Oh, wow.
Now, that process raises more questions than it answers.
It does. It's... Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's the turkey baster approach by the sense.
Yes. And also, when you think about it, they are taking, semen from a human man and then putting it into a human woman. So, you're what is the middleman process of it becoming demonic?
Oh my God, actually, that didn't even occur to me. Yeah, they must be doing some sort of weird prayer or something over it.
Oh yeah, there's some kind of weird ritual over it. So again, yes, apologies for the graphic nature of that, but that was, it becomes an important part of the succubus myth is this kind of, and it will become important to a case we're going to go over, is the idea that there can be these half demon children.
Cool.
So in the Malleus Maleficarum, they set forth 5 ways to get rid of a succubus. So you can recite the Ave Maria.
Of course.
Naturally. Make a sacramental confession.
Naturally.
Make the sign of the cross.
Classic move.
Oh yeah. Have a priest or holy man excommunicate the demon.
It's just go on now, get out of here.
Yeah. Or move to a new house. Just
such
yes.
That's a swift turn in another direction, because everything else is quite religious.
Exactly. This is just literally, I'm just wondering, are succubi working off the yellow pages and being oh, well, fuck, he's not here anymore. Don't know where he could have gone.
Fuck, he's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also,
damn it.
That's literally the horror movie thing of like the films with like ghost stories, like hauntings and all that. It's like, why the fuck don't you just move? Like,
oh yeah, yeah. It's like just leave the house.
Yeah, because if that was me in those situations, like that's one of the frequent things you'll hear. Well, if that was me in that situation, I'd just move.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So the church clearly like caught onto that early, and we're just like, yeah, just move.
Yep. Yep. They were just like, yeah, just move house. It's fine. Like, move next door. She won't know.
she's quite, yeah, she's not very smart. If you literally move next door, you're good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of text around it in the Demonology by King James dissertation. It was a dissertation that are like super gross, and I'm not going to get into. And, like, they go about, like, exact things of the way things happen. And again, like, we're talking about, like, very, like, non-consent, dubious consent. Again, shit this podcast is not interested in going over or, like, bringing to people. No. So, I do want to go over some other cultures that have succubus myths. So, lots of them have some sort of, like, sex demon as part of their mythology. And like I read in some like Arabic kind of area cultures, there were descriptions of jinns, or like what we would kind of interpret as genies, I think, or spirits, that would be responsible for similar sexual acts. In some myths that originate from different cultures in Africa, men experience having sex with one of these demonic women in dreams, and then they find themselves completely exhausted upon waking, which I'm like, that's not a bad trade-off.
That goes back to that previous comment of I had every last one of them.
Last one of them. So, there's even a Buddhist scripture that guarantees that those who pray will not be attacked by demons who either suck your energy or make love to you in your dreams.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah, there's but again, like, I'm, you know, on a range of demon attacks, like, if you're into it, you know.
I mean, yeah, you're right. There's far worse things. Far worse.
Yeah. So long as, like, she shows up and she's like, hey, you want it? And you're like, yeah. Then, like, excellent.
Yeah. Once you've, like, exchanged consent.
Yes, exactly. That's the main thing. But once the consent has been exchanged, like, yeah, I'll wake up tired. Fuck it.
Go like, wild. I wake up tired most days anyway.
Exactly. Like, I'm getting old. In myths from, like, the region around Hungary, there's a Lideric, which has like a really kind of in-depth mythology to it, but like in a very kind of cursory overlook of it, it could be a satanic lover who flies at night but appears as a type of will-o'-the-wisp, or sometimes even as what was called a featherless miracle chicken.
Oh, sorry, what?
I know. I had to type the phrase featherless miracle chicken.
That is quite the grouping of words.
Yeah, and again, there's a whole thing around that particular myth that I didn't get into, and it has something to do with like there being an egg, and then from the egg like it becomes like a beautiful woman or a beautiful man, depending on like anyway, it's a long story short, featherless miracle chicken.
That's a great name for a band, by the way.
Oh 100%.
It's got real like punk energy to it.
Yeah, like that's like a pop punk band from the early 2000s. Yeah. Like featherless miracle chicken.
Yeah, they were in the charts against Evanescence at the same time.
Yes. Panic at the Disco and featherless miracle chicken were right neck and neck.
They got ultimately topped by Bowling for Soup, but you know, they had a good run.
So in Greek mythology, there's like satyrs and maenads can kind of fit the myth of the succubus if you squint. And then there's also, I saw a discussion of Medusa as a type of succubus who, with her gaze, wrenches masculinity away from men through eye contact. So she's basically being described as having castrating powers.
Okay, looks at men, turns them rock hard. Fair.
Oh, God. Damn it to hell. But basically, most mythos generally believe that it's like repeated sexual activity with a succubus, like a long-term relationship, a situationship, as Gen Z would probably term it. Yeah. Like, they don't want to put labels on it. Yeah. But...
the original Friends with Benefits.
Yes. So multiple repeated sexual activity with the succubus results in deterioration of health or even death of a man.
Oh, interesting. So there are like downsides to it.
Yeah. So they're often talking like the downsides of the succubus being like either she's literally like stealing like the life force that is kind of equated to be semen, or she is stealing something like equated to what we would kind of assume is like an aura or chi kind of energy.
Fair.
And it makes men like sick and weak and less virile.
Fair. I can definitely already see like just pure like Chads though thinking that it's a cool thing that you had sex so hard that you died. Like,
again, if consent totally was given, like
yeah, I can totally see like the like Chad bros high-fiving each other afterwards, like
in the afterlife, being like, yeah, man.
It's that like meme of have you seen that meme recently? It's like when your bro dies on the bench press and you add on more weight before the cops get there.
I haven't seen that.
Same energy.
Yes, 100%. So that's kind of a brief overview of the myth throughout throughout kind of some major religions and mythological belief systems. So now let's get into kind of the general myth of the succubus. So she can apparently enchant a man with just a single look. Sometimes it is a one-time occurrence, but like I said, sometimes you get into a situationship with them, and through repeated sexual activity, and at each tryst, she drains more and more of the man's life source, which she needs to survive. So right. There's a lot of instances where a succubus kind of gets conflated with a vampire.
Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see how that could be, there'd be crossover there.
Yeah, and it comes back to the kind of the discussions of Lilith that we were talking about, because Lilith is kind of positioned as being the first succubus, but then in other stories she's talked about as being the first vampire, and like ultimately it's like her being this kind of monstrous feminine energy that is like draining the life, whether that be blood or like aura, power, or what have you, from innocent men.
Yeah.
So this, like I said, this life force has been described like an energy source that you might think of as chi. So yeah, it's unfortunately you have to like they're in this myth, the succubus has kind of been written as like potentially living off of semen, which is not great. Like, it's gross.
That's grim.
It's grim.
Not a good time.
No, not a good time. So actually another kind of element of it that gets conflated as well as vampires are like sirens. That kind of came around in the 19th century. So obviously sirens, which are often conflated with mermaids, living in the water and luring sailors to their deaths with their hypnotic songs. So there's crossover there.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about them because I was wondering if it was the same thing ultimately, or so. No, that's good to know.
Yeah. So I ran across like some stories that were very like, oh well, they're kind of talking about a siren, but then they're calling it a succubus, and then it was just kind of a lot of elements overlapping with each other.
Okay.
And so let's get into if you're ready, let's get into some documented stories of succubi throughout history.
Please do.
All right. So in 1468 in Bologna, Italy, a man was executed for running a brothel of succubi.
Of course he was.
Which kind of like is. I mean, it's a bit.
Look,
it's a bit capitalistic.
It's capitalistic, but at the same time, people are paying. They're paying for a service. They're going there of their own free will.
Yeah, there's enthusiastic consent given, so it's all grand.
Yeah, and who are we to kink shame?
Oh yeah, that's not what we're about. Not here in the paranormal playground.
No, if your kink is succubus and you got the gold pieces for it, fucking have at it.
Yeah, have a good time. And so the fact that this guy, found a niche in the market, and
I respect that. That's some ingenuity that we all need.
And so yeah, that's the story. I ran across that one line and thought that's fantastic.
That's brilliant. I feel sorry for that guy. He was just trying to be an entrepreneur, and he got taken out.
Yeah. So okay, here's one from 1608. It's in the Compendium Maleficarum. And Francesco Maria Guazzo, again, apologies if I mispronounce any of these names that originate from a different language than my native one. So he wrote of a succubus who forced herself on a young man near Aberdeen in Scotland, and stayed with him until dawn. And he was only able to rid himself of the demon woman after days of prayer and, again, moving house.
Oh, so he that was a double kind of move for him. He prayed and moved.
Yes, he maybe he prayed while moving.
Fair. That's smart.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Multitasking. He's getting that done. He's got the rosary beads in the hand as he's like packing the house up.
Yep, exactly.
And is she? I just imagine the succubus sitting there being like, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, don't worry. It's all good. Don't worry."
It's fine.
Yeah. He leaves the house, moves next door, and all of a sudden she's like, where the fuck is he gone?
Where the fuck did he go? Yeah, where'd he go? So that was obviously one where, like, the man was very much like, I had been attacked, this was non-consensual, all that, which is problematic. Yeah. But it's interestingly, like, and we'll get into this in a bit, like, so demonologists and kind of theologians of the day, they tended to believe that there was a real gender bias to how people were viewed as, like, if they were attacked. So, like, demonologists tended to believe that, like, men who were visited and attacked by succubi were innocent, and it was because of like this wild sexual woman was taking advantage of their, like, purity. Whereas women who were visited and attacked by things like incubi, which we're not getting into, but, like, those women had somehow brought it on themselves because women were inherently more licentious.
Right.
So it's like, it's not great.
And unfortunately, eerily similar to modern thinking on certain things. So yeah, it's
yeah, 100%. And so, like, yeah, just keep that in mind. And, like, every story you read, there is this element of, like, what are they saying about men and women and their, like, proper places and activities and behaviors and things in society, which we'll get into in a second. Because again, it has been in pop culture, it has been kind of upended in a few ways. But I'm going to get into a story that I think is going to rival, I think your reaction, I hope so, it will rival my reaction to the Aurora UFO incident.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's,
because
you're throwing down quite the statement there.
Because I read this, reread this, had to go make more coffee, came back and reread it again, because I was so flabbergasted.
I'm ready. I'm sitting here with my glass of water. I'm going to take a sip, and I'm good to go.
Okay. So, near the end of the 17th century, there was a young man in Posen, Germany, who broke into a cellar of a locked home and was then later found dead on the threshold of that home by the owners. And the owners were like, the fuck? Like, why is there a dead man on the door?
Yep.
So the owners said that after that, the demons, there were demons that set up in the house and started causing great disturbances. And they didn't know why, and they didn't know, like, what was going on. And so there was so much disturbance that the owners had to, like, temporarily vacate the premises. Again, doing the thing that everyone seems to be okay with doing, is just moving house.
Just move house. Yeah, it was a different time. It was easier to do, obviously, back then.
Yeah. So a local exorcist, a few of them, failed to expel the demons. So they called in, like, a local expert rabbi exorcist.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. And so he managed to get the identities and names of the demons who claimed that the house belonged to them. Okay. So, and because, that's kind of a big part of a lot of, like, exorcist stories is, like, can you get, like, you're supposed to find out the identity of the demon that's been infesting your...
Yeah, there's power in the name and all that sort of stuff, yeah.
Exactly. So he gets their names, and then this is where things take a turn. So the demons, who now have names that I could not find, but they demanded the opportunity to prove that legally the property belonged to them in a court of law.
Hang on.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
This is where I had to get coffee.
I can't accept this.
Yep. So it's only gonna get more wild from here.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
So they demand that the rabbi, like, have them be heard in a court of law. So the town agreed. So
no, they fucking didn't. I'm sorry.
So the town agreed, and the case was tried, with the rabbi as the kind of the plaintiff, and an invisible demon advocate who could be heard but not seen.
No.
Yeah.
So, okay. Did they turn up in court, and was there just this, like, cloak just floating there with, like, a wig?
I don't know. I couldn't find further description of it. Just that there was an invisible demon advocate who could be heard but not seen.
What the? Okay.
So to me, like, there's a potential there was just this, like, empty chair and a disembodied voice.
Some dude in the back of the courtroom being like, "No, I totally own it."
So, according to the demon lawyer, the previous owner of the house had engaged in intercourse with a succubus. So this is where a succubus comes in.
Right.
And then of that relationship, there had been born hybrid demon children.
Of course.
So the human man, was persuaded by another rabbi to break off the affair for the sake of his soul, but the succubus and her demon children, her half-demon children, demanded that at least the seller of the house, be given to her and the offspring as an inheritance. So, yeah, they were claiming rights on at least part of the property.
I just don't know what to say to this.
So, because we're getting into, like, German property law.
This is some fucking Judge Judy shit right here. Like, this is...
So, by the time that this trial is happening, the man who had the relationship with the succubus in question, and all of his human heirs, because he went on to have, like, a wife and, like, human heirs, they were all dead. So the only people left were the hybrid children and the succubus, who was, like, part of the demon posse that's haunting the house.
And, like, okay. And
yeah.
Were these children physically there? Like, were these, like, little children with just horns and red eyes? Like,
unclear.
Okay.
In other stories that talk about, like, the potential offspring of, like, succubi and incubi, they're either described as being, like, super deformed or as being totally normal but having really, like, crazy supernatural powers. Which, again, like, metal.
Yeah, I take that definitely over the deformity.
Yeah, for sure. I want my kid to have, like, laser eyeballs. That'd be cool.
If you can basically start the plot to X-Men through this, I'm there.
Yes. So the hybrid children and the succubus were demanding possession of the house. So the new homeowners, the ones who found the dead guy on the door and left the house from earlier, they fought this in court by testifying. They said they had rightfully paid for the house legally, and they claimed that the demon children and the succubus had no legal human rights because they were not, quote, of the seed of men. So they weren't legitimate humans.
Hold on a gosh darn minute now.
Oh, I know. I know. Unfortunately, then we're, like, drawn back to talking about fluids. But, but they pull out that quote from Isaiah that basically says, like, demons, including Lilith and all these other, like, belong in the wastelands of the desert, and that's their home, and screech owls and all that. So
they went biblical on it. Fair.
Yeah. Well, and they actually said that the children weren't legitimate because the succubus had coerced the previous owner into sexual intercourse, so it wasn't consensual. So again, it kind of brings up interesting, like, conceptions of, like, consent and how it functioned in law and all that. But so that was their argument, and the court ended up, unsurprisingly, deciding against the demons. They said that they told the demons, you do not have legal rights to the house because you do not have legal rights. And then the rabbi lawyer was then empowered to perform a full exorcism that cleared the house.
I genuinely am lost for words.
Yep.
Sorry, can I just ask, why did that guy die? Like, he had nothing to do with this.
Oh, I literally have no idea.
I feel sorry for him.
I want to say that I went to try and, like, verify this story in, like some kind of historical text, and I couldn't.
You can't verify this.
Yeah, so this is all could allegedly be made up, but Jesus Christ, whoever made it up then, like, applause.
Absolutely. Because it's either completely made up, or we have found either the most interesting town in Germany or the most bored town in Germany that they felt the need to actually, like, humor this.
Like, it's on, like, having a succubus demon lawyer is on par with burying an alien in a small Texas town.
Oh, it 100% is. It's the same energy. Like, this is very much so. Yeah, this is the same energy.
So I ran across this and I was like, this just made my entire week.
That is... Like, I'm just trying to even just think about the dynamics of how that works. Like, do the demons need to take a break? Like, do they get a recess as well? Like, when, you know, the trial has been going on for a while.
Did they give, like, an opening argument?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, do they get to talk to the press? Like, do they get to, like, you know, make a statement afterwards to the press, like, standing outside the courthouse? Yeah,
it's wild. It's like, it's absolutely wild.
I hate knowing, though, that the modern day equivalent of dealing with this now would be the demon mother, the succubus, would be on Maury with her 2 kids, basically, and
getting a paternity test done.
Getting a paternity test, yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And like she's got horns and stuff, and she's like, I just don't understand why he's shirking his responsibilities.
Yeah, they have her like they're doing interviews with her in the green room before she like goes in and everything.
Oh God. And like meanwhile her kids have like tails and wings.
Yeah, they're like fighting each other in the background. One of them like blows some flames and she like turns around and shouts at them.
She's like, cut it out.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. I ran into a fair few kind of vague mentions of like, because, and so this is kind of what like we're heading into now, I think, at least where I'd like to go now, is to talk about why the succubus myth kind of emerged as it did and how it was used for many centuries. And like I mean, because I think it's pretty obvious that it was used to, like Mary Ayres in her monograph says, basically like the succubus represents how women were made into containers for men's sexual shame. So women are either virgins, divine mothers, or sexual monsters, sometimes all at once, or vacillating between these identities, kind of whenever it's most convenient or needed to maintain men's power and control.
It's interesting. So, actually. And you would probably know this based on your research area and all that. Am I right in saying that there was this public perception that only until like very recently, like 20th century or whatever, that it was actually like women who were like the one in society who were always like thinking about sex and always had sex on their mind, and they were the one in the relationship that were like, they were the horny one that were always thinking about sex and all. They were just constantly on their mind.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird narrative, like, and it like to the extent at which it was like, it kind of fell into this idea of like women could only be essentially like virgin maidens or like sexual monsters.
Yeah.
And so
I think that
like
probably
they were kind of both
thing,
at the same time.
Yeah. And that's only basically like in effectively like the 20th century, effectively that shifted and it kind of went the other way then into the public perception. Then it was like it was always on men's mind and all that, and now we've realized it's fucking ridiculous.
Luckily now obviously like there's still like miles to go in terms of like gender equity and like dismantling these because like these narratives are harmful to, like, I think that's what we need to remember. These narratives are harmful to both men and women.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like they're not doing anyone any favors.
No. They're oppressive and repressive, and like they like, yeah, and you get whole centuries of people who like generations who just suffer under this, like, these conceptions of, because like, I mean, like the succubus myth for especially medieval Christianity was kind of introduced into a lot of stories, so that the man theologian in question could like overcome the temptation.
Yeah.
So they're basically just like plot devices in a way.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So they're like, aha, see, I was strong enough to not succumb to her seduction and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, like God intervened, gave him the strength and all that to...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then it means that, like, it's socially speaking that, like, it tells women that, like, if you are interested in sex, if you become aroused or what have you, like, if you're interested in sexual relations, that you are somehow, like, demonic, you are somehow monstrous.
Yeah, they're basically being viewed as, like, sexual deviants, effectively.
Well, there's actually, I remember seeing it, but I couldn't tell you because like I'm not a medievalist or an early modernist by any stretch, but I had a lot of friends who were, and there's this really great like wood cutting of it's like a woman who is supposed to be like this epitome of sexual licentiousness and cavorting with the devil and all that, and like basically like again, we're getting graphic, her vagina like runs away and like terrorizes the town.
Yes, it did.
So, which is like, we look at now and it's hilarious, but
fantastic.
But yeah, but it was like I said, like it was a lot of this was included in the Malleus Maleficarum, and like it had to do with witch trials, and it ended up being like, yeah, like if you like women who had any sexual power, like the succubus, and again that sexual power is like super problematic because obviously consent should always be sought between all parties, but like the succubus having that kind of sexual power over men, be like meaning that like it was thrown at women who were accused of witchcraft, saying like you became a succubus because you cavorted with the devil.
Yeah, fair.
Which again, like, I'm sorry. So, let's move briefly into, I'd like to move our discussion into, kind of into those dimensions of what it means for society, but also into pop culture.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about The Witch.
Oh, brilliant.
Have you seen that film?
Yes, I have, yeah.
It's great.
It's a great film.
It's got, the baby fairy angel look that is Anya Joy-Taylor, or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Who looks like a literal fae.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, she is not of this world.
No.
But in it, there's kind of the storyline being that she kind of succumbs into being tempted by the devil to become a witch. And you watch it and you're like, yeah, hell yeah. There's that moment where the goat is talking to her and says, "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?" and I was like, hell yeah, look at her life. All she does is...
No, she's living her best life.
Exactly. So that kind of brings us to how the succubus is being used in both past and contemporary pop culture. So it actually shows up quite a lot in literature. There's a short story by Balzac called The Succubus, and even in Plato, in his philosophy, the authentic soul is made is male. And when it succumbs to the flesh of the body, it is then reincarnated as a woman. So femininity, womanhood, feminine sexual energy is a lowered state of existence. And I'm to be fair, I mean, Plato probably wasn't getting much. I don't think he was a ladies' man.
No, probably not.
No, I mean, he was in a cave thinking about things.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think he had ever properly spoken to a woman. But in Charles Williams, do you know of Charles Williams, by the way?
No, I don't think I do.
So it will, I think you'll, so he was one of the Inklings with Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. The name does sound familiar, but I'm not really overly familiar myself with any of the kind of works or anything.
Yeah, so he had a work in 1937, a novel called Descent into Hell, which is kind of a theological thriller, which I had never really heard that genre before, and I'm very intrigued. Yeah. And so in which a side plot is where a local historian in the novel falls in love with a townswoman who does not return his love. So he then falls in love with her spirit form, her doppelganger, who is pliant and obedient and sexually submissive to him. And ultimately, his love of this kind of succubus figure causes him to descend into hell via a silver rope extending into a dark pit. So
okay.
Yeah. It kind of, so suddenly the succubus, so we're in the 20th century, and the succubus is clearly still has there's sexual power there, but in that novel, for example, she is very almost like a sex bot for this local historian. It's much more of there's a weird kind of power dynamic there that isn't there in some of the earlier succubus stories. And this will continue in pop culture and kind of culminates in a TV. Have you ever seen the TV series Lost Girl?
No, I haven't.
So it's a Canadian TV series, and it was 5 seasons. It ran from 2010 to 2015, and it was a supernatural drama, and it was the story of a woman named Bo, who is a bisexual succubus and a fae warrior who is enmeshed in navigating the politics of the fae.
That was there's a lot to unpack in that sentence.
Yes, she is a bisexual succubus and fae warrior.
Fair play to her.
And oh yes, I'm gonna say I loved this show. Because it came on the Sci-Fi Channel in America.
Right. Yeah.
When I was growing up, and so I never saw the back kind of half of it, but I saw the first half before I moved to the UK. And yeah, it was really interesting. And so she is a succubus. She has to manage this kind of power. She kind of drains people of their aura when she has sex with them, and can damage them. And so she has to kind of balance that along with her sexual identity and along with her kind of being this supernatural being and what that means. And it really has, in this story, she is this being of sexual power, and she is a succubus, but she is she holds all of this agency, and she chooses who she sleeps with, and like they can move house, and she knows where they are because she has a mobile, and like, it's much more like the succubus has become a potential part of female agency, because you'll see it now, like women now cosplay as succubi at like Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's become quite popular.
Because like, you know, like they get to be, so it's this opportunity for women to like be provocative sexually and to have a lot of sexual agency, and feel like they are in control over their own desires and like who they have relations with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, like it makes sense. Kind of take it back.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like and so like in a lot of the modern, and again, it was a cursory overview. I'm sure there's lots and lots of other like representations of succubi, and some of them are probably more problematic than others. But like you've kind of taken out some of the really like inappropriate wrong shit, like forcing yourself upon men who don't want you, like that. But instead it has become this feeling of having power and having choice and having agency. So yeah, like, you know, you are empowered to be whatever you want to be, and to make that into a supernatural power of you like sucking the life out of men. Like, again, if everybody's into it, more power to you.
I mean, that's it. Like we said at the start, who are we to kink shame? You know,
exactly. We're not here.
Your thing. Yeah.
We're here to promote enthusiastic consent and not kink shame.
Yeah, that's it. That's it exactly. You know. That's the takeaway for our show. We're here for a good time and not the kink shame.
I'm sorry. Like, I'm just thinking of how we'd fit that into a tagline. But yeah, so that's t-shirt. Oh god, like so our merchandise would be so wrong. But yeah, so I know we kind of like went on a bit of a journey from like the ridiculous to like some really like heavier stuff about society and gender roles and all that jazz. But yeah, that's kind of where I ended with my study of the succubus. What are your thoughts?
There's a lot to unpack there. There's
so much.
I'm still just kind of a bit like mentally broken after the court story.
Oh, I know. Like, I really wanted to find the text it was, like, documented, and I just couldn't.
I want to see someone animate that at the very least. Like, I would love to see just even a short of that, so I can visualize it. Maybe with the power of AI in another year or so, we can actually visualize it.
We can start animating our podcast.
yeah, absolutely. No, I found this fascinating. Like the whole idea, the succubus and all, is super interesting. It actually, I think the first time I ever heard about them was actually from the X-Files. So they've been in my mind for a long time. But no, it's super interesting to see kind of the origins of it and how they're metal as fuck. We both agree there with Lilith and all that. She also, by the way, she definitely got the better deal, Lilith.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But you know, I was talking to my husband about this, and I was like, can you imagine how like fucking frustrated Adam must have been when he like Lilith doesn't work out. She like won't be submissive to him either like emotionally or sexually or whatever. So God gives him Eve, and Eve's supposed to, and then Eve also like listens to the snake and eats the fruit and gets them kicked out of the garden. And you can just imagine Adam being like, the fuck, like, I just 100%. Can't win.
Yeah, but like also I'm just imagining like Adam out doing his shopping and like just minding his own business, and then looks across and sees like Lilith there with like a fucking archangel, like just like enjoying herself, having a good time and all, and he's just like bitter about it. Like,
oh yeah, well, because this is something my husband brought up. He's like, well, like at some point Adam's got to look at himself and be like, well, the common denominator here is me.
No, see, he's a man. He couldn't possibly be the problem.
He's like, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
No, it's the women who are the problem.
Exactly, like it's always the women who are the problem.
Yeah. But no, super interesting. I love the origins of them and like how society, like different societies have like dealt with the idea of the succubus, and loving now how in modern tellings of it that it's very much so a case of like almost getting towards like empowerment and kind of like taking it back.
Yeah, like it's kind of yeah, it really has become a space where, and because actually, like, it's a really common, well, not common, but like it's not uncommon to see that character kind of in threads of like popular erotic literature, like that is primarily aimed at like a women identifying audience.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So no,
because
it's
she can do what she wants in the bound, but like within the bounds of like she has consent and and then beyond that she can seek her own pleasure.
Yeah,
which is kind of like which is empowering and goes against so many centuries of society.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's cool. I enjoyed this one. This is a really fun episode. As I said, I'm still just stuck on the whole demon court case that I'll be thinking about that for the rest of the day.
I knew as I was like making notes on that one, I was like, I'm gonna break Rob's brain.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack on that, but I'm glad it's now in my brain.
So I think that was basically my ode to Valentine's Day was
and a perfect ode to Valentine's Day is what it was.
It's like the perfect ode that we could do a la spooky AF.
Yeah, for sure.
So I wonder what we'll do next Valentine's Day, but
yeah.
But yeah, so like thanks for joining us. Please hit us up on social. We're really active on Instagram and Threads. And we would love to hear from you guys about things that you find interesting. If you have other paranormal stories that you want us to potentially read out, we would love to hear them. And other than that, like, stay spooky.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
All right, so we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.